All right, weekend's over. It is a brand new day. It is a new week that is smack in front of us, and I hope you're off to a good start. Thanks for catching Central Vermont's podcast, aired out from Fly on the Wall Productions, North Main Street in Barrie, streamed everywhere you get your podcasts, and on the web at airedoutvt.com. A big shout out to Rex and Ed yesterday, kicking off philosophy and fighting at UFAI in Burlington. Great job, boys. More to come every Sunday afternoon around 1:30 or so. We're looking at cloudy skies today, a little bit warmer, around 60. I might even say a lot warmer. Tonight, going to be a chilly one. Great forecast for the Sugars. We'll get down right about that freezing point. And then tomorrow, rain and 50. Wednesday, same story. And by Thursday, mostly cloudy and around 42. Might get a little bit of rain and snow in the mix by Friday, but it should be all rain by the afternoon. I hope you're off to a great start. It is, as I said, a brand new day. It is a new week right in front of us. This morning, I have a couple of guests on. Chelsea, Megan, Becca, welcome to Aired Out. And I purposely kind of didn't really pre-promote heavily what I was going to be doing this morning, and I have good reason for that, because we're going to be discussing something that is probably going to hit a nerve in our community, at least parts of it, and I think from a relatability standpoint, we're also going to be connecting in with a good number of people who can feel your concern. I think the objective this morning, above all things, is to affect some change and tell your story, your version of what you are experiencing at our two schools, Washington Village School and Echo Valley. All three of you are parents with kids in both schools between the three of you. Becca, let's start with you. Tell us, you're on the PTO.
Yeah.
Tell us what's going on, because I've been hearing a lot of stuff about these two schools, and I think we would all probably agree that there's no perfect school anywhere in the country. I mean, come on. But I've been hearing from so many people over the course of, I don't know, at least a month. And I think some of that was coming from you, Chelsea, that you were like, hey, are you aware of this, of what's going on? There's some real dysfunction, for lack of a better term, that's happening. What's going on, Becca? Tell us. Begin this morning.
So it is a very long, dramatic story, but it tends to boil down to a lot of the community in Washington as Orange has lost all trust in our superintendent. We have had to deal with him for many years, and at this point, there is a lot of shady behavior, lies, deception, favoritism, and it's genuinely resulting in a lot of kids hating school, having behavioral issues because they don't feel safe, and so many kids are being pulled to homeschool, mine included. And I genuinely think that the actions of the superintendent are going to cause our little schools to close.
That's a big statement right there.
It is.
Wow.
I agree, though. I mean, the number of students that we've lost even since December is huge. Some of them were resulting from some administrative things with our principal. Some of them are bigger than that, even at the middle school. My sixth grader has been pulled since Thanksgiving, and she is one of at least 4 in her class that's been pulled, whether to be homeschooled or to a private school, and that's out of one class.
Okay. Megan, what's your story?
My kids are still both currently at Washington Village School. If I could pull them, I would. At this point, we're looking into private school for next year. They're just not receiving the services and the support that they need. I feel like I've had to fight going to board meetings over and over again for my children to get help. My youngest has had multiple behavioral issues that just, are a lot of them are out of his control just from family stuff going on. But we haven't had the support that he needs at the school. So things have just escalated more and more. And I mean, things are getting a little bit better with him right now just because I've gotten outside help. But then I'm having, like my oldest, there's services that he should be receiving there that he's not. So I take him out as well. And then just everything with what we went through with our principal and the fighting to try to keep her and just all the backlash from everything, too.
This is Katie Green we're talking about.
Yeah.
All right. She's the principal now.
Yes.
Yes.
Came back when? Not long ago.
During February break.
All right. So she's driving the bus here for the rest of the school year.
Yes.
Yes.
Correct.
Will she be back next year?
That's undetermined. I think at this point they're trying to hire another principal. I'm not sure if she is reapplying or not.
All right. So they're vetting some candidates here.
Yes.
All right. How's that vetting coming along?
I think application deadline starts
I think it's
Or
April
April
1st.
1st.
Yeah.
the 1st.
Qualified candidates?
I haven't heard if there's any candidates at this point.
Becca, I see the look on your face.
At this point, they are so late into the what they call like the hiring season for principals that the candidates we are getting are not going to do well.
All right. So why are we not just why can't we just keep Katie Green at the wheel here?
So Katie Green, before she became interim principal, she was a teacher at the school.
Good person.
Amazing
Amazing.
teacher.
Good principal?
Yes.
Okay. Good teacher.
Yes. All of our children have had her. So at the end of last school year, we had a different principal. He ended up resigning due to some legal issues. And that was, he resigned, I think it was like a week before school ended.
Okay.
So there was no real time to find a different principal or go through a hiring process. Katie applied for it as an interim and got the position.
Okay.
We started out this year, and she genuinely was doing an amazing job. She is the best principal that I've ever had experience with, and I think over the past 6 years, she's our 4th principal. Since my oldest started preschool, she's the 4th principal that we have had, and the only one that I've had a good experience with. And then in December, or I think it was November, we all got an email one day saying that she was being put on leave. There was no explanation. There was no reasoning. There was no who's taking over. It was just she's gone.
What was the source of that email?
Fetters
Yeah.
had emailed
He's
the
the
parents.
superintendent.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
So we all, or I think like 75 community members, showed up at a board meeting in December in a snowstorm to show our support for her. And we were never fully told why she was put on leave
Okay.
at that point. We did find out that it was a paperwork issue. That someone else had filled out paperwork. She gave it to the superintendent and said, should I send this in?
Okay.
And there was inconsistencies on it. And the superintendent who approved this paperwork said it's her fault.
All right. Have you guys been in touch with Katie?
I have, just because I still work with her for the PTO.
Okay.
I mean, I have because my kids are still there and
Yeah.
dealing with other issues and stuff.
Is she able to enlighten Any of you?
No.
No.
She's definitely just trying to be the best principal that she can be
Yeah.
and get through the school year.
Okay.
I mean, she was there the first day greeting all the kids back at the front door with hugs, and you know, almost every student went up and hugged her
They were so
when she
excited.
came back. They were so excited to have her back.
Okay. So, I mean, there's, like I said, when we first started chatting, there's cliques everywhere. I mean, every school's got them, and they have, some of them are very internal and kept quite at bay and private. But it seems like there's been some momentum in these schools where things are really starting to surface here and frankly smell. And a lot of our community is getting whiff of it. So what's the deal with this? What's going on? Is it the superintendent and his followers, supporters that are going against certain teachers, certain parents?
It's a lot of
Is it if philosophical differences? What's going on?
it's kind of hard because there's definitely like so many pieces to the puzzle that not everyone sees the same way as even we do, which that's great. But the root of everything is the superintendent. And he's got certain people that are following him. But even then, like, we have teachers that stood up and supported Katie Green publicly as part of that same board meeting with during a snowstorm. But now they're the same ones that are standing up and supporting him and his decisions and going against the board. I feel like our school board right now is being attacked for trying to listen to parents and try to do things thoroughly rather than be handed things last minute and just expected to sign it because that's what the superintendent says they should do.
So there's some allegiance stuff that's going on. There's some loyalty stuff that's going on here. There's some game playing that's happening. Looking out for your own ass more than.
Because we had one board meeting where it was all legal counsel telling us basically what can be said and what can't be said and how things are supposed to proceed. And
There's been some rather contentious board meetings lately. Tell me about some of those.
I think our board is at a point where they have spent months and months and months listening to all of these parents' concerns. They have received complaints against the superintendent. They've received complaints against certain teachers. They are genuinely listening to their community and asking questions. And Fetters is standing there saying...
Which they should do.
Yes, they absolutely should do. And Fetters is sitting there going, oh, well, you don't get to make those decisions because you're just the school board. You make the policies, I handle all the decisions. And I think we're at a point where Fetters is breaking school policies. The board is stepping in, and we have one school board member that is posting all over Front Porch Forum his allegiance to the superintendent rather than listening to community members and realizing something is going wrong.
One board member doing that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. How active is that board member?
He hasn't been to a board meeting in person, at least the last 4 or 5 of them, which is starting to bother some of the other board members. It's starting to bother the community members. He's always on Zoom. But then he goes on Front Porch Forum and makes these really bold posts that multiple parents have brought up at other board meetings and said, like, this is breaking your board policy. And just last year, we had our board chair get in trouble for posting on Facebook simply asking, like, if parents felt the communication was strong enough. And then that was going against board protocols, and she almost got in trouble. But he can go on Front Porch Forum and say very, very bold things.
Including calling the group of people that have spoken out against Fetters vocal but relatively small and less than 1% of our community, and urged the other parts of our community to not, don't take essentially people being loud for consensus.
What do you think I'll get as a reaction if I reach out and invite a microphone to anyone on the board?
I don't think they can speak.
They cannot. And that is against the board protocols, is they cannot speak out publicly on any of this. They cannot, as an individual, speak out on any board matters, which is why we found such an issue with this one member posting all over Front Porch Forum, because the number one protocol is that you are speaking for all children. But this person only wants to speak for selective ones that fit his agenda.
Yeah. What do we do about this? I mean, this has created a whole hell of a lot of stress.
It has. It's created a lot of stress for the community, for parents, for teachers. There's a lot of teachers that cannot say publicly, but they do not agree with Fetters and what he is doing. They are being harassed. They are being threatened. Their jobs are being threatened. So they can't speak up. And I fear that we are at a point where teachers are going to start quitting.
Chelsea, how has this changed your life? You've had to pull your sixth grader. What has that done to your work life?
I mean, I work from home, so it hasn't really affected that. It's affected like our stress level is a huge thing, and we had the younger two home for a while as well during the interim period, because again, I don't feel comfortable with our superintendent. So when he was acting principal at the school, I said there was no way my kids were going to be there. It helped us learn a lot about our kids and where they're at and what works for them and what doesn't. And for my sixth grader that is still home, it has been the absolute best decision we could have made for her. She was really struggling. She has been struggling for a while with like social emotional issues within her class. But the fact that it took me pulling her, and then even then I still haven't been heard on what it was. I was told repetitively by our superintendent, I hear what you're saying, I'm working on it, I gotta wait and hear from this person or that person, and then we'll come up with a plan. Once all was said and done, he was like, nope, I made an administrative decision, this is how it's gonna be. And while to some people it sounds really petty, for us it was a big deal. And yes, did initially start with basketball for her. For basketball has been what is important. It's what helps her get through the day and get through dealing with her stress. So when that was, I don't even know the word. It wasn't threatened because she could have still played, but it was being changed last minute for her. We had no decision but to pull her out of that.
And Megan, your second and fourth graders are still at Washington
Yes.
Village School.
Yep.
And hasn't been the best.
Oh, definitely not. But I am definitely not somebody that can homeschool my children. We're looking into alternatives maybe for next year if things continue the way they are. But I know that, like, I'm not even working right now because I'm on a medical leave, but, like, I'm exhausted just dealing with this stuff. It's definitely not helping my mental health. It's not helping my stress levels. I just want what's best for my children.
Bottom line.
And that is not happening right now.
Yeah. That's where the buck stops, is with the kids. And Becca, you and Dee have been very involved with sports,
Yes.
running the program.
Yes. Me and two of my best friends realized we don't have elementary school sports. No one wants to do this. And we said we want our kids to be able to have that in their community. So we started a youth sports program.
How's that going?
It's going great.
Okay. Man, these kids need an outlet.
They really do.
Huge.
They really, really do.
But you've resorted to pulling your 7 and 9-year-old,
Yes.
second and fourth grade.
Yes. We pulled them in January when Fetters had sent letters home saying that he would be replacing Katie's principal position with himself. We made the decision that we did not want our kids physically in a school that he would be in every day. With the behavior issues that had been going on, I did not trust that he would handle it. I did not trust that it would not escalate to a dangerous level. So we pulled our kids, and it was extremely eye-opening. I mean, our kids went from they'd get home at the end of the day and just they needed 20 minutes to themselves in a quiet room, or they'd come home crying because, like, this kid threw a chair today. We had to leave our classroom again because somebody was throwing a fit. Like, one of our children was dealing with a bully and nothing was being done. And they went from stressed, overstimulated to they're genuinely happy. Like, they sit, they do their work, they love being homeschooled. They get to have more control over their environment.
Yeah.
And it has made the biggest difference. Things that they, quote unquote, had been struggling with at school, all of a sudden they're weeks and weeks ahead of where their previous classmates had been.
So what have you had to do to change your life to make sure that this is happening?
So I have been a stay-at-home mom since the girls were born, but it has definitely been an adjustment because once they were both in school full-time, you know, we very much had talked like I needed to go back to work. I needed to find something outside of the house, and all of that has been paused. So I am very, very, very fortunate to be able to stay home and homeschool them, but it is not without stress and sacrifice. But it's for my kids. I wouldn't change it.
You had to make this decision in what was in their best interest.
Yeah.
Bottom line. Not your best interest, theirs.
No, theirs.
Yeah. Second and fourth grade. Wow. That's a handful right there. What are you hoping next year's school year is going to look like? Are you hoping that the kids will be back in school?
So we originally had planned that once Katie returned, we were going to, like Chelsea did, put ours back in the school.
Yeah.
Because I have full trust in her to handle everything. Like, we've dealt with her for many, many years, and she handled bullying issues, behavioral issues just perfectly.
Yeah.
And then once I realized how much stress that school was causing for my kids, I couldn't send them back.
Yeah,
In good
understand.
conscience, I couldn't. I love their teachers. I love Katie. But it has become such a stressful, toxic environment that I could not send them back.
Dee, what are you saying about all this, man?
Yeah, it's definitely been something. The amount of issues that went on at that school before we pulled the kids, and just over the past couple of years, the issues that we've had, I don't get how that functions. Like, granted, I went to school quite a few years ago, but it wasn't like this when I was younger, I don't think. The amount of stuff that they're allowing kids to do and get away with, as far as like the bullying and stuff, that's, I mean, not accepted, but it's dealt with so differently that kids aren't necessarily getting in trouble for it, but everything's just being gone around in a way that, oh, you know, we care about the bully's feelings. The other kid keeps getting bullied, but as long as we, you know, make sure the bully's okay and all that, yeah.
Here, you know, there's always, kids are always going to be goofing around. We talk about bullying all the time here, especially every Wednesday. We kind of dedicate the airways literally every Wednesday here on Aired Out to bullying and mental health for kids in general. Kids are always going to be kids. They're always going to goof around. They're always going to poke and prod. And, but, you know, it's like we as adults, and I don't care if you're a parent, a teacher, a superintendent, a principal, whatever, we have to really recognize the difference between being a kid and goofing around or repetitive behavior that is something that is consistent and showing a power imbalance toward another kid, whether it's verbal, whether it's physical, throwing stuff at him on the school bus, in the classroom, outside of the classroom, and online. We have to do a better job as parents and as adults, all of us, to watch that shit and nip it right in the ass as quickly as possible and as effectively as possible. So that's just not being done well.
Well, I don't know. I just, on my end of, my kid was accused of bullying last week, and there was an investigation. And then I was called on Friday basically saying he was found guilty of bullying, that it will stay in his record just at this school. Yeah. And I was looking at the policy, and, you know, it says intent to humiliate, intimidate. My child was not doing any of that stuff. He was having reactive behavior for a student that would not stop. He constantly was asking, please stop, please stop. He would not, so he reacted. Yeah. And that was after he felt he couldn't even go to an adult because he has multiple times, and they just tell him to ignore it. What 7-year-old is going to ignore the behavior?
So this is flip-flopping now. So
Yeah.
So the victim is now the bully.
Right. So I'm like, this student keeps bothering all the children, but yet now my kid has been accused and found guilty of bullying.
Yeah.
He's a 7-year-old.
We need to all be well-versed with what the real definition of bullying is.
So now I'm to the point, do I appeal it with the school board? Do I just let it go? You know, because I've had the discussion with him, and I'm like, he's like, I'm like, do you know what these words mean? And he's like telling me what he thinks they mean, that, you know, like annoying another person or something. And I'm like, that's not what it means. You know, he doesn't even understand.
Yeah.
We had the same issue with one of our kids where when she finally did stand up for herself, she's the one that got in trouble. So
you are relying on a school administration that is really getting it, and they're going to have the backs of their students. They're also not afraid to show repercussions, consequences for behavior, but also support where support is deserved, needed, justified. And above that teacher, a principal that's going to support them.
I think the current principal supports all of our students. I mean, she is the only one that my children feel safe to go to. My kids have been through a lot with their dad having medical issues and not being home anymore. And she relates to them. She has been their safe spot to go to draw a letter or a card for their dad. And
So there's push for retaining Katie Green,
Yes.
but there's also push from our community, not just the three of you sitting on this couch, to respectfully ask the superintendent to resign.
Yes.
Which has been done multiple times. People have asked him to resign multiple times during the meetings. If you watch any of the back catalog of the meetings, you'll see it.
and then there's a petition now.
And what's the main reasoning behind that? What's the root of that?
Because we believe that he's the reason behind majority of the issues around the school. Whether it's stuff not getting handled properly or flat out lies about certain things.
I
I agree. I mean, I just feel he's not supporting our teachers. He's not supporting the staff. He's, maybe deep down he has the children's best interest, but the actions definitely don't align with that all the time.
So a little bit of collusion going on.
I think he's a bully. I think he wants to look good, has a very giant ego, and will try to hide anything that says different. He's bullying his staff because he is responsible for their jobs. He's bullying his teachers. He's bullying parents. I mean, parents can send email after email, and if it's something like delicate, as he calls it, he will call them on the phone and refuse to put anything in writing.
He's done that to me before.
And then we'll go and say publicly something completely different than what the parents said or what he said to parents. And it has been a massive issue.
There's some teachers that are reluctant to voice anything at a school board meeting or in public or anywhere because they need to retain their jobs.
Yes.
Okay. Are there others that are a little bit more gritty and willing to speak up?
I do know, just because I had teachers reach out to me. I will not say their names, but I know of 2 teachers / staff members that wrote letters of complaint against him to our board. I also know of a group of teachers and staff that wrote a letter and signed it together and sent it to the board. And I cannot say for sure, but what I am witnessing is that our union, the teachers' union rep, is nowhere to be seen. When it comes to teachers having issues, nowhere to be seen. But at recent meetings, when it came to budget issues and potential budget cuts, she showed up and threatened legal action against the board. So things are not lining up, things are not making sense. Our teachers genuinely feel dismissed and unheard.
I also want to say here that this isn't just the 3 of you, the 4 of you. There's a large group of parents, for the most part.
Yes.
You're all connected and communicate on a regular, daily basis,
Yes.
sometimes hourly, where you're connected and you're sharing information. There's been a little bit of interest in going above the Central Vermont Supervisory Union, going to the state level? Department of Ed?
I don't think we can. I know a few of us had gone on the AOE website and tried to see where we could file formal complaints, and there's no form. I know of a few parents that reached out to the Agency of Education and got told we don't handle that.
Really?
Yes.
So, how does the agency of ed keep these supervisory unions in check? How do they hold them accountable?
Well, apparently that's the board's job.
Yep. But when our board starts questioning his actions, they get threatened with legal action. They get bullied. They get harassed.
Have you guys thought about getting a lawyer?
At this
no
point,
comment.
No comment.
yeah.
Okay. What about the supervisory union?
We had the same issue with the supervisory union where certain things got brought up and then they voted just to ignore all of it pretty much. A couple of months back, there was complaints that were brought up to them, and they essentially just voted not to investigate it further. Now, why that was done, I have no idea. Should it have been done? I think they should have investigated, but then again, I'm not on the board, so.
I see a petition over at the Washington Village store.
Yes.
Are there others?
Yes.
Yes.
The petition is for what?
Respectfully requesting that Fetters resign.
Okay. Where's that going to take us, this petition? What are we looking at for signatures, and how far do we have to go, and will it hold any water?
I know the one in Washington has over 100 signatures. There is also one in Williamstown and Northfield. I am not sure on the numbers on those.
Okay.
I think at this point, legally, the petition isn't going to do anything. I think it was, especially after the Front Porch Forum post where we were told that we were, 1%. I think it was more of proving that we are way more than 1%. That our feelings, that our experiences are not going to be diminished, are not going to be ignored.
I'm just processing everything that you guys are saying to me, and I think our listeners are too, which has been very interesting to me because the comment section has been notably very small this morning, but we have a lot of people tuned in. And that speaks volumes. When that ratio is like that, we know that we're hitting a hot button here, and people are
scared to talk.
People are scared to comment or post anything in reaction to any of this. I want to ask you, what's next? We're only a month and change away from the end of school here, or 2 months. What do you want to do in the months remaining in this school year?
Get through it.
I'm sure you're already thinking about next year.
Yeah. So we have made the decision that our kids will not be going back. And it's like we are very fortunate to be able to make that decision, but like with being on the PTO, with being a coach of a lot of these kids, I can't. I look at my kids every morning and I go, they're home, they're safe. Mm-hmm. And then I think about every other kid in that school that does not feel that way, that does not feel listened to, that does not feel loved, that does not feel respected, that does not feel safe. And I can't let this go.
Megan?
At this point, I don't know what next year looks like. We've talked about putting them in a private school or whatever. I will not honestly stay home and homeschool. I cannot do that. Yeah. I don't have the patience, and I need to work.
Yeah.
But I also want what's best for my kids. So I don't know what it means for next year for me right now. A lot of it will depend on how the end of the year pans out. What happens? Do we have a principal next year? Who is that going to be?
Who is that going to be?
How the hiring process will go for the next one, you know. So yeah, I'm undecided on what next year looks like.
And redistricting and all that stuff and how that's going to come into play or not for these schools.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything for next year, but
Becca and Dee, you guys still going to be coaching?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. What do we do at this point? As we said, and I think the biggest takeaway in all of this has been that at the end of the day, at the end of the line, this comes down to our kids.
Yeah.
And their development, not only their education, but their social development, their emotional development. There's schools everywhere that have shit that flies. Maybe it's a chair. Maybe it's a paper airplane, whatever. But how it's dealt with is what's most important. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I've said this so many times. I mean, I'm the last person that would ever want to be a school teacher. I would, yeah, all three of you are nodding your heads here. I mean, I would put up with this for 5, maybe 6 minutes.
I worked in the school as a substitute a few years back.
Yeah.
And
I can't imagine. I can't imagine. I mean, a lot of what the teachers are doing, and huge props, huge kudos to all of them. Mm-hmm. But a lot of what they're doing is, and we talk about this. We talk about this heavily on Wednesdays with Sweethearts and Heroes, is that they're parenting. Mm-hmm. They're teaching kids about consequences and discipline and sharing and getting along. And, you know, what's the ratio of the core curriculum, the sciences, the maths, social studies, English, reading, writing, compared to what else is being done?
Well, and I think for our second graders, one of the other reasons that we did choose specifically to pull our second grader is there were so many behavioral issues in that class, and the solution, according to the school's policy, was to clear the classroom for the one child. So multiple times a week, our daughter and the rest of her classmates were saying, you have to evacuate your classroom. And they were going to the gym, they were going outside, like they would have to go somewhere else. But I had asked Amelia multiple times, like, well, what's happening for the rest of the day? Like, what happens if you're in the middle of a lesson and you have to evacuate your classroom? And she goes, oh, we never get back to it. And I'm like, well, what about the rest of the day? And she's like, I don't remember learning anything the rest of the days because everyone's just so crazy, as she puts it. So it's a matter of letting the one misbehaving child get all of the attention is failing all the rest of them. And it's failing them socially and emotionally because it's teaching them, oh, well, if somebody else is going to be a problem, they get the attention, I have to be quiet and behave in a different room. And then it's also taking away from their education. And when this was happening multiple times a week, I mean, if you ask a second grader, what did you learn this week? And she says, I don't know, how to hula hoop in the gym. Like, I find a big problem with that.
A lot of this is relatable, I think, to a lot of parents. Some of this is systemic. What's the solution? I mean, you know, I had a friend who pulled their kid, not right here in Central Vermont, it doesn't matter, but wrote to the agency of ed and said, y'all have basically no idea that a lot of what's going on in schools is and I'm quoting because I'll never forget these words, glorified babysitting. Something needs to happen. And at some point, those that are pulling need to push a little bit, and those that are pushing need to pull a little bit. We need to work together. And it's got to come top to bottom. We need people who are, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a janitor, whether it's a superintendent, whether it's the head of the agency of ed, we need people who are really dialed into this stuff and get it, and aren't tightening their belt every day saying, this is how it is, this is how it's going to be, and I'm going to run my classroom or run my school board as a dictatorship. We need to get our shit together.
Mm-hmm. And
All of us.
I think about the future of all of this, because it starts with Fetters resigning. But it's not going to get better if we end up with a replacement that is exactly the same. And I think that's my biggest worry at this point, is he's the problem right now. What's going to be the problem in the future? What is the future of our schools, especially the schools in these small communities?
Effective leadership. Real leadership and real effectiveness. Not easy for all of us to do. Some of us are not cut out for this kind of stuff. I definitely am not. But those that are doing this, whether you're a principal, a teacher, whatever it is, like I said, you've got to be effective with your job, and you've got to have an open mind. You've got to be able to push and pull where need be, and not necessarily be allegiant to whatever clique or group that you're loyal to.
And I think that's why Katie's been so great, is because she's loyal to the kids.
Yeah. What a concept.
Well, I think the other issue is if the teachers are so worried about losing their jobs to be able to do their jobs effectively, can't necessarily blame them, which, we had some issues with some teachers, but come to find out it was an issue of the teachers not getting support from the administration that was the actual issue behind everything that was happening.
What are you guys hoping that's going to take place here in the next? I know I've already asked you this, but in the
I
next,
think that parents need to start standing up, whether it's agreeing with us or not, but having some input.
And actual parents, like people that are involved and actually, have some sort of stake in it.
Right.
what are you looking for those parents to do? Join a group? Join your group?
Voice your opinion.
Yeah.
In any way possible.
Yeah.
If you're not happy with something, speak up about it.
If I'm wrong, but I guess being in an echo chamber of only hearing the people that are agreeing with me is not, which I'm fine with being disagreed with.
Me
Yeah,
too.
I just,
right.
If there's all these parents that, we've been in contact with that are agreeing with what we think,
Sure.
and a rare few in between that are speaking otherwise, and majority of the ones saying anything otherwise aren't even parents of kids at the school.
Yep.
So
Yep. There's a ton
Yeah.
of echo chambers
yeah.
in every community. My God, in every school. But man, we need to start smartening up, put the egos aside, put our own biases aside and realize that as adults, we need to maybe engage less in our pissing matches and more in the future of our kids. They're the victims of all of this bullshit. Mm-hmm. They're the ones that are going to pay the price. And before you know it, they're out of elementary school or middle school, and they're into high school. And before you know it, they're out of high school. So now what? What are we left with? Are we left with kids in our community who have this much knowledge of the kind of stuff that they should have, and this much knowledge of how childish adults can act to serve their own agenda? I mean, is that what kids are being, is that their big takeaway? We want them to be happy and successful.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
With whatever they do. And they're going to school to learn. And that's a really broad word, but to learn a lot of things, but not the type of shit that they're learning.
Yes.
And again, I mean, we're talking about 2 schools here, but this is everywhere. This is everywhere. It's not. It's every county. It's every state. This kind of stuff. This is nothing new. It's just that the difference is that you guys were brave enough to come in here and go on a camera and a microphone and air it out. And I think that's awesome. And regardless of who agrees with you or who doesn't agree with you, who's watching and or listening, there should be props for you guys. There should be respect for you guys for your willingness to do this. And I hope that you're able to continue to bring awareness, bring attention to this. And ultimately, I think that the goal here is to positively affect some change, whatever that is. If it's the removal of certain individuals or the introduction of others. But let's watch out for our kids. That's our job. Above everything else, that's our job. Is there anything else? I hope you guys stay in touch with me. You will.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you can think that you want to bring onto the show this morning?
I think my goal behind all of this is, despite disagreements, despite cliques, despite adult pissing matches, my goal in all of this is I want that there are 170 kids between Washington and Orange in elementary and middle school. I would love for at least one single day where 170 kids get to go home, look at their parents and said, I had a good day. And I don't think that's happening. And I find that incredibly sad.
Yeah. 170 kids between both schools?
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
Giant.
Yeah. But you know, it's like, man, look, these kids, man, they're everything to us. That's our future. I mean, I'm a lot older than you guys, but I mean, you know, our time is winding. Time's ticking right now. We really don't have a lot to waste. I mean, these kids have gone through so much over the last couple of years, not to mention just COVID alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I hope that your kids are able to get back into a school environment. They're making more friends. They're getting more engaged with their school. Things are never going to be perfect between teacher and parent relations. They're just never going to be perfect. I'm sure that you guys aren't really looking for any kind of perfect superintendent that you're going to agree with everything that comes out of his or her mouth.
No. At this point,
An honest one would be a good start.
yeah, an honest one that puts the kids first above their own ego.
thank you guys so much for coming in here. You're brave. Tom Murphy from Sweethearts and Heroes. I don't know if you've ever seen him or heard him on the air with me on Wednesdays. He's amazing. They've written a book called The 13 Pillows for Effective Teachers. And they purposely don't say pillars, they say pillows, because they want, the objective of this book is when we lay down at night, we put our head on our pillow, we should think, I'm happy that I did this today, and I wish that I had done that. And if you can answer those two questions when you put your head down on your pillow, as a teacher or not, you're onto something. And the book, written from the perspective of who? Not the superintendent, not the teachers, the custodian. So I'll play a little video here that'll take us out. But thank you guys so much for coming in, and I hope you come in again real soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
For effective teachers. 15 years in the making. It's a fictional allegory. I like to say that every page is a true story. The book was written in honor of a young man that took his own life in the 11th grade. He was just one of those invisible kids. And he became less invisible when he did the unthinkable. And the story is about a teacher that loses a young man in the 11th grade. So he writes his resignation letter in the prologue, and from the shadows steps a custodian, a man by the name of Tim, modeled after a very good friend of mine named Tim McGowan. Tim was a counselor, and his first district that he inherited, they had 15 suicides in 30 months. And if Tim were sitting right here with me right now and you say, Tim, what's the secret of going from 15 to 1? And he'd just tell you one word: conversations. Young people need to have conversations. And even if they're not talking about them, they need to be involved in them and listening to them, so that they know that they're not the only ones going through some of these challenges that young people are going through. All of these 13 characteristics that we go through in this book are what it really means to be an affective teacher, and really what it means to be an affective human being. Benjamin Bloom said that in order to connect the head to the hands, you had to go through the heart, or the affective domain. It's that emotional domain, or teaching from or through the heart. And so that's how it begins. And if you're an educator, you'll find yourself in your first year of teaching, in your middle years, and if you're in your sunset years, you'll find yourself there too, because it just spans the enormous spectrum or perspectives of different educators that we've met over the last 15 years, crisscrossing this great nation, talking to people through the work that we've done with Sweethearts and Heroes. So it's called The 13 Pillows of Affective Teachers.